Why God's chosen ones often feel misunderstood. Have you ever shared your dreams, beliefs, or experiences only to be met with confusion, judgment, or disbelief? Have you felt like others couldn't understand your path, no matter how hard you tried to explain it? If so, you are not alone. Many of God's chosen ones experience this feeling of being misunderstood. It's a natural part of the calling placed on your life. Feeling misunderstood is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Instead, it's a sign that God is leading you on a path that looks different from the world's expectations. You were set apart for a higher purpose, and this uniqueness often causes others to question you, resist you, or fail to see what you see. But remember, your purpose comes from God, not from the approval or understanding of others. 1. You see the world differently. One of the main reasons God's chosen ones feel misunderstood is because they see the world through a different lens. You are not satisfied with surface-level living. You crave depth, meaning, and spiritual truth. While others may focus on material success or worldly validation, you are drawn to the things of God. This difference in perspective can make it hard for others to relate to you. You may find yourself having conversations that feel shallow or unfulfilling because you long for deeper connection and purpose. You see through the noise, distractions, and illusions of the world, and this can leave you feeling out of place. But this ability to see differently is not a curse, it is a blessing. God has opened your eyes to truth and purpose that others may not yet understand. He has called you to be a light in the darkness, to challenge the status quo, and to bring His wisdom into the world. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever felt disconnected from others because of your unique perspective? How has this difference helped you grow closer to God or understand your purpose more clearly? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel seen and understood. 2. You are on a path others cannot see. The path of God's chosen ones is not always visible to others. You may feel called to step out in faith, start something new, or follow a direction that doesn't make sense to those around you. Friends, family, or even mentors may question your choices because they cannot see what God has revealed to you. Noah faced this same challenge. When God told him to build the ark, everyone around him thought he was foolish. They mocked him, misunderstood him, and doubted his purpose. But Noah remained obedient to God, even when no one else understood. His faith and trust in God allowed him to fulfill his calling and save his family. When others don't understand your journey, remember this: you are walking a path that God has prepared specifically for you. They may not see it, but that doesn't mean it isn't real. Your job is not to explain or justify your calling. It's to trust God and keep moving forward in faith. Reflect on this. Have you ever taken a step of faith that others didn't understand? How did trusting God's direction help you stay strong despite their doubts? Share your story in the comments. Your courage may inspire someone to follow their path with confidence. 3. You are called to stand out, not fit in. God's chosen ones are not meant to blend in with the crowd. Your values, beliefs, and purpose will often set you apart. This can feel uncomfortable, especially when you desire connection, acceptance, and belonging. But standing out is part of your calling. Romans 12:2 reminds us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." God calls you to live differently, not to conform to the world's standards, but to reflect His truth and light. This difference can make others uncomfortable, but it is also what makes you impactful. When you embrace who God has called you to be, you inspire others to do the same. Your courage to stand out, to live authentically, and to follow God's will sets an example for those around you. You were not created to fit in. You were created to lead, to uplift, and to shine. Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever felt pressure to conform, even though you knew God was calling you to stand out? How did you overcome that pressure and stay true to your purpose? Share your reflections in the comments. Your testimony may encourage someone to embrace their uniqueness. 4. Your faith challenges others. When you walk in faith, it can challenge those around you who are not yet ready to take that step. Your obedience to God, your trust in His promises, and your courage to follow Him can make others question their own lives, choices, and beliefs. This discomfort often leads to misunderstanding, judgment, or resistance. Jesus Himself faced this challenge throughout His ministry. His teachings, miracles, and message of truth challenged the religious leaders and those around Him. Many misunderstood Him because they were not ready to accept the truth He brought. Yet, Jesus never wavered. He remained focused on His purpose, even in the face of resistance. If your faith challenges others, it is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that God is using you to plant seeds of truth. You may not see the results immediately, but your example can inspire others to seek God in their own lives. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever felt resistance or judgment because of your faith? How did you remain strong and focused on God's calling? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story may encourage someone to keep shining their light. 5. You are being refined for a greater purpose. Feeling misunderstood is part of God's refining process. It teaches you to rely on Him rather than the approval of others. It strengthens your faith, sharpens your character, and prepares you for the purpose He has called you to fulfill. When you feel isolated or rejected, turn to God. He understands you completely, your thoughts, your heart, and your journey. He sees what others cannot see, and He will never misunderstand you. Through every moment of confusion or loneliness, He is refining you, strengthening you, and drawing you closer to Him. Reflect on this. Have you ever felt that being misunderstood was part of your growth? How did that season deepen your relationship with God or prepare you for something greater? Share your reflections in the comments. Your insights may inspire someone to embrace their refining process. Have you ever felt like the people closest to you simply couldn't understand your calling, your choices, or your struggles? As one of God's chosen ones, feeling misunderstood can be a heavy burden. But take heart, this misunderstanding is not rejection from God. In fact, it is often confirmation that you are walking a path He has prepared just for you. If you've ever felt this way, share your reflections in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else to embrace their journey with confidence. 6. You are walking in faith, not by sight. The path of God's chosen ones often requires faith that goes beyond what the eye can see. You may feel called to take a step that others cannot comprehend because they are looking at the situation from a worldly perspective. Walking in faith means trusting what God has revealed to you, even when the evidence doesn't yet align with the vision. Abraham's story is a powerful example of this. God called Abraham to leave everything he knew and go to a land he had never seen. To those around him, Abraham's decision likely seemed irrational or foolish, but Abraham chose faith over fear, and his obedience allowed God's promises to unfold in his life. When others misunderstand the steps you are taking, remember that they are not walking in your shoes. They cannot see the whispers God has placed in your heart. Their doubt is not your burden to carry. Trust in God's direction, and let your faith speak louder than the voices of doubt. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever taken a step of faith that others questioned or criticized? How did God confirm His plan for you despite their doubts? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your faith might inspire someone to trust their own steps. 7. Your growth makes others uncomfortable. When you begin to grow spiritually and step into your calling, it often highlights the areas where others are stagnant. Your growth challenges the people around you, sometimes without you even realizing it. While some will be inspired by your progress, others may resist it because it confronts their own fears, insecurities, or unwillingness to change. This resistance may come in the form of judgment, criticism, or misunderstanding. People may question your choices, distance themselves, or trying to bring you back to where they feel comfortable. But don't let their discomfort keep you from growing. Your journey is about pleasing God, not people. Galatians 1:10 reminds us, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. Stay focused on your growth, knowing that God is working through you, even if others can't yet see it. Reflect for a moment. Has your growth ever made others uncomfortable? How did you learn to keep moving forward despite their resistance? Share your reflections in the comments. Your story might encourage someone who is experiencing this right now. 8. You are learning to rely on God alone. Feeling misunderstood can be lonely. When people fail to understand you, it's easy to feel isolated or unsupported. But this loneliness often serves a deeper purpose. It teaches you to rely on God alone. God uses seasons of isolation to draw you closer to Him. When the voices of others fade, His voice becomes clearer. He reminds you that He is your source of comfort, wisdom, and validation. You don't need the approval of others to fulfill your purpose because God's approval is all that truly matters. In Psalm 62:5, David writes, "Yes, my soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from Him." When you feel alone, turn to God. He sees you, He understands you, and He will never leave your side. What feels like isolation is often an invitation to experience His presence more deeply. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever gone through a season where you felt isolated or misunderstood, but God used it to draw you closer to Him? How did that experience strengthen your faith? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might remind someone that God is with them, even in loneliness. 9. You are being prepared for something greater. Being misunderstood is not a setback. It is part of God's preparation process. He is strengthening your faith, refining your character, and teaching you to stay focused on Him, even when the world doesn't understand. This preparation is essential for the purpose He has called you to fulfill. Joseph's life is a perfect example of this. He was misunderstood by his brothers, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison, all before stepping into his destiny as a leader who saved nations. Every moment of misunderstanding and hardship was part of God's plan to prepare him for something greater. When you feel misunderstood, remember that God is using this season to equip you. He is teaching you to trust Him, to persevere, and to stand firm in your calling. What feels like rejection is often redirection, God positioning you exactly where you need to be. Reflect on this. Have you ever gone through a difficult season of being misunderstood, only to realize later that God was preparing you for something greater? How did that experience strengthen your trust in His plan? Share your reflections in the comments. Your story may encourage someone to trust their preparation process. 10. You are part of a bigger story. As God's chosen one, your life is part of a bigger story, one that He has been writing since the beginning of time. You may not always understand why certain things happen or why others don't see what you see, but God does. He knows the plans He has for you, and every moment of misunderstanding is part of His purpose. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." You are not misunderstood because you are broken or flawed. You are misunderstood because God's purpose for your life is greater than anyone else can comprehend. When you trust in this truth, you begin to see the beauty of your journey. Every moment of doubt, resistance, or isolation is part of the story God is writing through you. You may not see the full picture yet, but trust that He is using your life to bring glory to His name and inspire others along the way. Reflect for a moment. How does knowing you are part of God's greater story change the way you view being misunderstood? How has this truth given you peace and confidence on your journey? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insights might encourage someone who is struggling to see the bigger picture. Being misunderstood is never easy. but it is part of the calling placed on your life. God uses these moments to refine you, strengthen you, and draw you closer to Him. When others don't understand your journey, trust that God does. He sees the full picture, and He is using every moment, every question, every doubt, and every challenge to prepare you for something greater. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are part of a bigger story, and God's plans for you are beyond anything you can imagine. Trust the process and keep walking in faith. Have you ever reached a point where you stopped trying to explain yourself to others and simply chose to trust God with your journey? Being misunderstood is not easy, but it is often part of walking in alignment with God's purpose for your life. When you learn to accept this, you begin to experience a deep peace, knowing that God sees you, understands you, and is using every moment for His greater plan. If you've ever come to a place of peace despite feeling misunderstood, share your reflections in the comments. Your story might be the encouragement someone else needs to embrace their path with confidence. 1. Misunderstanding draws you closer to God. When others don't understand you, it can feel isolating. You may long for someone to validate your feelings, your vision, or your choices. But in these moments, God invites you to turn to Him. Instead of relying on human understanding, you begin to rely on Him alone. This is a powerful shift. God uses misunderstanding to deepen your relationship with Him. He becomes the one you run to when no one else seems to understand. In His presence, you find the comfort, clarity, and validation your soul longs for. Psalm 34:18 reminds us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Through misunderstanding, you begin to realize that God's approval is all you need. He sees your heart, your journey, and your faith, even when others cannot. This closeness with Him becomes your greatest source of strength and peace. Reflect for a moment. Have you experienced a season where feeling misunderstood drew you closer to God? How did His presence bring you comfort and clarity? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might remind someone to seek God in their own moments of confusion. 2. Misunderstanding teaches you to trust God's plan, not man's approval. As humans, it's natural to desire acceptance and understanding from others. But as one of God's chosen ones, your path will not always align with what the world values or understands. This is because you are living according to God's plan, not human expectations. Proverbs 16:9 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." God's plan for your life is greater than anyone else's opinion of it. When others misunderstand you, it is an opportunity to shift your focus back to Him. Trust that He is guiding you, even when the path doesn't make sense to those around you. When you stop seeking approval from people, you experience true freedom. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself or justify your choices. Instead, you rest in the confidence that you are following God's will. His approval is all that matters. Reflect on this. Have you ever had to let go of seeking approval from others to follow God's plan? How did that decision bring freedom or clarity to your life? Share your story in the comments. Your experience may help someone else let go of the need for validation. 3. Misunderstanding strengthens your purpose. Every moment of misunderstanding has the potential to strengthen your faith and clarify your purpose. When others don't see your vision or understand your path, it forces you to dig deeper into why you are doing what you're doing. It strengthens your resolve, sharpens your focus, and builds your confidence in God's calling. Think about Jesus. His entire life and ministry were misunderstood by many. People questioned His teachings, rejected His message, and doubted His purpose. Yet, Jesus never wavered. He stayed true to His mission because He knew He was fulfilling God's plan. In the same way, every time you stay faithful, despite being misunderstood, you grow stronger. Your commitment to your purpose deepens, and your confidence in God's direction grows. Over time, The misunderstanding of others becomes fuel for your determination to keep going. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever felt that being misunderstood clarified or strengthened your purpose? How did staying faithful through that season impact your journey? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might encourage someone to stand firm in their calling. 4. Misunderstanding reveals who is meant to walk with you. Not everyone is meant to walk with you on your journey. Being misunderstood often reveals the people who truly see you, support you, and believe in God's calling on your life. It also reveals those who may not be ready to walk alongside you yet. This can be painful, but it is also necessary. God will sometimes remove relationships that are holding you back so He can make room for the right people to enter your life. Those who are meant to walk with you will understand your vision, support your calling, and encourage you to keep moving forward. Trust that God knows who belongs in your life. He will place the right people on your path at the right time, people who see your purpose, speak life into you, and walk with you in faith. Reflect on this. Have you ever experienced a shift in relationships during a season of misunderstanding? How did God use that season to bring the right people into your life? Share your reflections in the comments. Your story may inspire someone to trust God's timing with their relationships. 5. Misunderstanding prepares you to help others. The struggles you face today, including being misunderstood, are preparing you to help others in the future. Your experience will give you empathy, wisdom, and strength that you can use to uplift those who feel alone or misunderstood themselves. 2 Corinthians 1:5-4 says, God comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Your journey is not just for you, it is also for those God will call you to help. When you share your story, your struggles, and your faith, you become a light for others. You remind them that they are not alone, that God has a purpose for their pain, and that He can bring beauty from every trial. Take a moment to reflect. How has your experience of feeling misunderstood equipped you to help others? Have you ever shared your story and seen it encourage someone? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your testimony might give someone hope today. Being misunderstood is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is often confirmation that you are walking in alignment with God's calling for your life. When others don't understand you, trust that God does. He sees you, He knows you, and He is using every moment to shape you, prepare you, and lead you towards your purpose. You were not created to be understood by everyone. You were created to fulfill God's divine plan. Keep walking in faith. Keep trusting His direction, and remember that His understanding is all you need. You are seen, you are chosen, you are loved. Let the misunderstanding of others strengthen your faith, deepen your trust in God, and lead you closer to the life He has called you to live.